good. Dale, would you have our prayer, please?
Our loving God, we come to you this morning as we're about to study your word. We just pray that we will leave here better off than when we came, that we will learn things that will help us in our daily walk with you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Oh, what I forgot to say, for those that do not know John Cosgrove, he is a doctorate in leadership. He's a former and current financial planner on a limited basis. He's amazing at what he does. He's a West Point graduate, an Army Ranger, and has become one of my closest friends. Thank you.
Good morning. I have to start out by saying again, what an honor it is to be here. We look at this as a very important time, and the preparation for it is just a real rich part of my life. This is to remind everybody, the bar for this next hour is set pretty high. It's our goal that you leave this room slightly different than when you came in. That something happens, something said, something evolves that somehow changes maybe your life and kind of expresses your path in a little clearer way. And that's our prayer. We encourage discussion, we encourage comment, and a lot of what we get out of this is from each other. And so I encourage you to do that. I want to start off with a question. And I know the answer to the question, I'll give it, but I'll delve into it. Have you ever gone through a transition? Well, of course you have. But I mean a big one. I mean a big transition. Maybe the loss of a job, or you left a position, maybe death of a spouse, something that really dramatically changed your life, divorce, a marriage, leaving home and going to college, all transitions. And my question for you is this. Look back and think about the big one, a big one. How did you handle it? How do you think you did? And maybe you're going through it now. What did you do well? And what do you think, if you had it to do over again, you may make a different decision? Think about it. Think about transitions. And think about how you handled it. Anybody have any comments when you think about that? The cornerstone of what we're going to talk about today is those changes in life that take place and what framed your decisions and framed your behaviors. Oftentimes, during those transitions, you begin to learn a little bit about yourself. And so another follow-on thought would be, what helped you through it? What were the things? Yes, sir.
God.
Okay. So you maybe read scripture, you prayed, which forces reflection and thought. What else helped you through it? Yes, sir.
Good counsel, wisdom around you, smart people that supported you and loved you and cared as you went through some difficult situations.
When a friend walked in the room and said the right thing at the right time, or was always there, I can sure relate to that. Yes, ma'am.
Community.
The community. Yeah, I remember in my life going through a transition, my workplace became reasonably important. And people around me in the workplace became important. Yeah.
People who've gone through it before.
The voice of experience. You know, it's They can't tell me what I feel like, but they knew what they felt like, and I could relate to that. Yeah, Jerry.
Sometimes it's your accountability partner pointing out what you could be changing about yourself and your reactions.
Yeah, I think what happens in transitions by definition, transition is change. Something different is going on. And change can be challenging, can be difficult. I mean, has ever anybody here been fired from a job or left it? Of course. Most have walked through that in their life. Don't feel bad. You know, you're just part of the community. You know, that's tough. Or somebody passes away unexpectedly, which happened to me. I mean, you go, you know, you're changing. But I think what also can happen, and I want to get back to the original question I had, what did you do well, and what did you not do well? Transitions is a wonderful opportunity to get off track. It's a wonderful opportunity to rationalize sometimes things that are going on, and sometimes you rationalize things that maybe you should not. I got to tell you, there's all kinds of examples of this. I mean, I was president of this Lutheran church over here years ago, and we were building the church, just Old 12 Ringgold Road, take a right, to the right there. And we were building that building at the time. My wife had died like 2 months before this. The former president of the church announced he's getting divorced. Pastor comes into a church council meeting, says he's getting divorced. This is a mess. And the pastor's doing a good job. He comes and visits me every week or so. I mean, I had 2 teenagers at this time. He's doing his job. And about, 3-4 weeks, 3 or 4 visits, he comes to me. I'm the president of the church. So he says, I'm counseling Barbara. Barbara is the wife, she's the organist, and she's the wife of the former president that announced their divorce. They have kids. And I really like counseling her. I said, you'd be proud of me. I've said this story before. I said, no, you're counseling the Owens family. Yeah, I am, but I really like counseling Barbara. And I remember saying to him, Pastor, there are times in your life, there are career times, where things are all on the line. And the only way you can blow it right now is to lie. I'll handle anything. I just need the truth. So I said to him, the question is this: are you smelling the smoke or are you standing in the fire? He said, I'm smelling the smoke. Good. Walk away from the smoke. Year goes by, you're going to get another calling. I know that. You're not here very long. And, these things are unfortunate. They happen. People in this room's been through this. We'll work through it. Walk away from the smoke right now. Okay, I'll do that. Well, he didn't. And he was fired about, 6 weeks later, lost his career. What happened? What causes somebody to get out of bounds? I mean, this is in my life. Think about these people. We have politicians. Like I've said this before, like the governor in California years ago had 2 families, one for the public. We had an attorney general in New York that attorney generals, you're supposed to prosecute criminals, You're not supposed to hire prostitutes like he did. Hey, Liz, what causes this stuff to happen? Let's not look so much like this. I got to look like this. What causes me or you to kind of get out of bounds and spin it? Yes, ma'am.
I think we take our eyes off Jesus. And things, when you take your eyes off Jesus, you can rationalize anything.
All right, so give me an example of something, be specific, where your eyes are off or your eyes are on. Because see, what happens is they keep your eyes on Jesus. Okay, my view of that may be different than yours. What's important to the question is at least you have a view, I think. At least I have a personal definition of it. You know, I think that's what's important. Yeah.
For me, it's rushing the process that's supposed to go a certain pace in God's timing. And I'm thinking of grief because losing my son
Yeah.
and I just wanted it to be over so bad. And I felt like I was trying to rush it and it's not something I could rush.
No, and you think the transition's over with,
Hold on.
and then you look back on it and think, boy, that would lasted a decade. Think of the Garden of Eden and what happened there. Are we still in that transition? I could probably make an argument that we definitely are. Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with choice, and I say that all the time, but it has to do with ethical choice. You have to decide ahead of time what your rules and what your boundaries are. And I think where the Father comes in is to give us strength to stick to those. I don't think that it's turning to Him every single day and saying, hey, I really want to do this and I'm going to do it and you got to stop me. I don't think that's it. I think it's you have to set boundaries for yourself ahead of time, whatever it is. You have to have your own ethical pathway, and He gives you strength to stick to it.
See, that's at the heart of where I'm walking here. That'll be the punchline towards the end, but it's okay to say it now because you can begin to think about that. Yes, sir.
In a way, it's idol worship. Something becomes more important than God. It's a bit of choose ye this day who you will serve. And you're not serving God, you're serving a desire. I'm serving desire. Something else becomes more important than what you know you should do. You've got to have it. And something else became...
The way I look at that is when I become more important than you, when I become more important than God, when I am doing self-serving things because it's me. Oh, and by the way, we train you to be that way. If you do this, you get this. You get this bonus. You get this promotion. If you do really good, you might get to paradise. It's what you get. And so, but there's a time in life, I hope, where you say, enough. Enough. I got important things to do. I'm valuable, and I got to get to it, and that value affects my community, independent of me. I think that's really important. I think a lot of times we get off track during these transitions when you get confused and changes in this way. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. Because what we've been studying is in the book of Exodus, Genesis and Exodus. And think about the transition that these people are going through. And I'm going to paraphrase some of the things we've done in the past for you to get you caught up if you weren't able to attend. And so, a quick review. The Israelites needed help. They were in bondage. And finally, Pharaoh releases them. And about 2 million people depart. 2 million, that's the estimated number. I studied, I was surprised it was that. That's a lot of people, 2 million. Pharaoh changes his mind and sent 600 Egyptian chariots to attack the helpless Israelites. There was grumbling and complaining among the Israelites, showing some evidence of weak faith. The Lord told Moses even, hey, quit praying and start moving. Take action. Using Moses, the Lord drew the feedback and the Israelites crossed. Then remember there was the song of Moses and Miriam right after that. Complaining still happened, and manna and quail were delivered, helped satisfy them, but they were still whining, more grumbling. Moses spent so much time listening to complaints. He was under great pressure. Finally, his father-in-law came and said, you got to do something about this. So somebody stepped in to his space and gave him advice. And so he began to delegate things better. And what about Moses' transition himself? I mean, he was a baby in a basket. He was brought up in Pharaoh's household, but actually was raised by his biological mother. He had great power. He was second in command. There was some had a theory that he was going to be the next Pharaoh. He was walking outside the compound, and he killed an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew. He killed him. Why did he kill him? Well, he killed him because he could. He couldn't control his temper, and he must have had a degree of arrogance. Yet later in Numbers it says that Moses was the most humble man in the Bible. I don't think he was too humble then. It makes you beg the question, what made him so humble?
I know exactly what made him humble. He went 40 years shepherding sheep, and sheep are the stupidest things on the planet.
That was part of the time. You bet. You know, you had to spend time with humility. And there were probably some other things too that went on there, but that's a big one. So I can't go shepherd sheep. Neither can you. I'm not going to do that. Maybe I could. I'm not going to do it. And so what? How do I? What do I get out of that? You know, what do I do about my arrogance? I mean, humility in leadership is extremely important. So, the 3-month crossing, and that's where we're at today. Now God's steps are getting big. Now he's really knocking on the door. So I'm going to read Exodus 19. Starting in verse 1. And I'll be reading the entire chapter. In the 3rd month after the Israelites left Egypt, on the very day they came to the desert of Sinai. After they set out from Rephidim, they entered the desert of Sinai, and Israel camped there in the desert in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain and said, "This is what you are to say to the house of Jacob, and what you are to tell the people of Israel. You yourself have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites." So Moses went back, summoned the elders of the people, and set before them all the words the Lord had commanded him to speak. The people all responded together, "We will do everything the Lord has said." So Moses brought their answer back to the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses, "I'm going to come to you in a dense cloud, so that the people will hear me speaking, and you with you, and will always put their trust in you." Then Moses told the Lord what the people had said. Pause. This is a big deal. They've been there for 3 months, and there's been a lot of whining and grumbling going on. And the Lord reminds them, "Look what I've done. All right, you bring them now." And the Lord said to Moses, "Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Have them wash their clothes and be ready on the 3rd day, because on that day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. Put limits for the people around the mountain and tell them, be careful that you do not go up the mountain or touch the foot of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. He shall surely be stoned or shot with arrows. Not a hand is to be laid on him. Whether man or animal, he will not be permitted to live. Only when the ram's horn sounds a long blast may they go up to the mountain. After Moses had gone down the mountain to the people, he consecrated them, and they washed their robes. Then he said to the people, prepare yourself for the third day. Abstain from sexual relations. On the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning with a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke, because the Lord descended on it in fire. The smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace. The whole mountain trembled violently, and the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder. Then Moses spoke, and the voice of God answered him. The Lord descended to the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top of the mountain. So Moses went up, and the Lord said to him, go down and warn the people they do not force their way through to see the Lord, and many of them perish. Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them. Moses said to the Lord, the people cannot come up Mount Sinai because you yourself warned us. Put limits around the mountain, set it apart as holy. The Lord replied, go down, bring Aaron up with you. But the priests and the people must not force their way through to come up to the Lord, or he will break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and told them. What's the situation here, and what is God trying to do? Establish authority. Establish authority. I'm with that. What else? What do you think? What's he trying to frame? Authority. You know, I am the Lord thy God. He's going to say that in the beginning of the next chapter.
Teach them discipline.
Discipline. So there is evidence here that they struggled with discipline. I think so. What else is God trying to do here? You think?
Differentiate himself from all the gods that they've been around for 100 years.
I didn't think that's true. That makes all the sense to me. You bet. I mean, you think about the idols that exist today. We not call them idols. What else? What kind of environment is God trying to establish here? Think of culture. Think of what we have today. And remember, they are in transition.
Gives promise and consequence.
There's a consequence to it. It isn't free. At least that part isn't. Yes, ma'am.
Could it be because it was going to be on holy ground? That sin couldn't touch that?
Yeah, I mean, there has to be some framing. Garden of Eden, you know, you can do anything, but don't do this. You know, they did it. You know, but there's framing there. I mean, I think it's the same theme. I mean, there are rules. There are things you should do and there are things you shouldn't. Anything else come to mind?
Well, another thing that's important is God wants to be with them. That's the miracle here. But he's showing them that they can't come to him in a willy-nilly way. There is a way that is proper to come to God, and there's a way not to come to God.
You know, with what you just said, this is the first line of chapter 20, right before the Ten Commandments. And the Lord spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. That's the first, that's the introduction. You know, hey, it's me talking now. You know, any of you have children and they're in a big debate? And did you ever have to say, hey, wait a minute, this is your father speaking now? That sends a different message. Time for everybody to be quiet and listen to the father. The mother says that. And that's what happened here. When God said that, again, framing, this authority, I am the Lord your God. Remember? I took you out of Egypt. Remember? It's me. Now listen. That tells me something is about to happen that's really big. Wouldn't you say?
Another thing is you can't come to God in your sin. The sin will be destroyed by his brightness and his holiness. So they were in their sin yet. They didn't really know God that way.
Yeah, I think what happens in these transitions, that's a great point. Sometimes you want to do something, but you don't know how. You can kind of picture what you want to see happen, you just don't know how to get there. But we're going to get some evidence here now how to get there. Because then God carves out the 10 Commandments. The first 4 commandments. No other gods. No idols. Honor God's name. Remember the Sabbath. What's the focus on the first 4? On God. God's relationship with us and our relationship with God. That's the framing. Yeah.
It's about broken up. First 4 are broke. I won't get into the second. 6,
I'm going to do that.
you're going to do that.
Yeah.
But the first 4 are about God and us.
That's right. It's about God and us. That's what it is. And the last 6 are about
And each other.
it's each other. How are we to form community? What's our relationship with each other? What do we have to do and what does it form? What does it look like? The last 6, honor parents. Don't murder. Don't commit adultery. Don't steal. Don't lie. Don't covet. We get now kind of to what Rob was driving at. I think, I know, I'm a student of leadership. And has anybody, I've asked this question in the past, so I'll ask it again. Has anybody ever worked for, reported to somebody that you didn't like or respect? Anybody ever? Good. Hey, what was it? What was it that caused you not to respect this person? What was it? Jerry, what was it?
You want me to do the top 10 or just go for a top 1?
Well, you can do 1 or 2. Sorry you have such hard feelings. I mean, go ahead.
I led a regulatory program. So if my manager didn't support me on that and actually undermined me in front of other people, I didn't like that at all. And constant control. Constant control.
So this sounds like this person is pretty insecure. Sounds that way.
Yeah.
Here, I've asked that question many times in many groups. Here's some of the words I get. A bully. I get that. Is not willing to pay the price that he's asking me to pay. The good leader probably was one that wouldn't ask me to do anything, wouldn't do himself. That's not the case here. Think about it. And what causes people to behave that way? What do you think it is? Now, we just read the Israelites. and they were struggling here. They were getting out of bounds. What is going to get them back in bounds?
New path forward, new
And
leader.
so you need a new path that's framed, all right? And so what's God doing here? Why is this so important? Why are the Ten Commandments so important? Huh?
Boundaries?
You have boundaries? Yes, sir.
Our path to happiness.
Yeah. As opposed, Yeah, Rob.
So the fall, people talk about sin if it's like stuff we do. I don't think that's the case. Sin is a separation from our Creator. And this is a reintroduction into what a relationship with Him is like.
Yeah. That's what, in particular, the first 4 commandments. But this is, if you're looking for guidance as to what to do, these may not be your words, but your values are derived from this stuff. What causes you? Yeah.
I work in healthcare, and there are certain laws and rules that are going to lead to a longer, healthier, happier life. You may not like it, but if you eat ice cream every day and you eat foods that are not good for you, you don't exercise, the laws are going to be that you're going to break down earlier. A healthy society will follow patterns like this. A society is going to break down if there aren't, who says it's great to steal? You're going to have a breakdown there. Relationships are important. The family unit matters. And out of that, the mother and dad, that's core. So this is a lot of it's just about the health of a society. You don't follow these kind of patterns, and it doesn't lead to a happy person, a happy family, a happy community, or a happy nation.
What you said that I think was so intuitive is that if I have a bowl of ice cream tonight, that's no big deal. If I have a bowl of ice cream tomorrow night, that's no big deal. If I have the next night a whole gallon of ice cream, I'll probably recover, but here we go. Eventually, if I keep doing that, I'll probably run into a crisis. It'll probably be a real problem. Yeah.
The book of Judges is in the Bible because about 3 or 4 times in there it says, and every man did what was right in his own eyes. And it was absolute moral chaos. So what God is doing here is there is a standard of behavior. There is a compass that has a needle that goes to the north, and all of us have to behave, and our GPSs all are on the standard. But if I say, you know what, I don't want north to be there, I want it to be over there.
Right.
We could vote, and all of us together.
That's right.
Say that's north and not that north.
That's right.
It doesn't.
What?
But the standard makes chaos.
That's right.
So he is making a standard of behavior. And like he was saying back there, Rob, I believe it was, we have to make that decision ahead of time. Who's going to be the authority? And by what standard am I going to behave toward God and toward my fellow man? And God's saying, here it is right there.
You're doing it ahead of time. I did a speech and conducted a workshop this past week, young people, probably 24, 25 years old. And the question I posed to them on this subject, who here has ever cheated on a test? I ask you, who here has ever cheated on a test? One person out of that 5 said, I've never cheated. I told this story before. Mrs. Schultz was my 4th grade teacher. She didn't like me, and I didn't like her. She was going to retire next year. She had terrible body odor. I'm 72 years old. I remember this. And we had the science fair, and Debbie Wagonknack. How do you remember these names from so long ago? That was her name. She put this stupid thing into the science fair. It was dumb. A bird nest and the stuff in there she put in with jelly beans that were the eggs. I thought it was just stupid. And I had this I had this thing that I put a wrapper around it, had plants growing in it. I didn't do it. My mother did it. And so it gets moisture on the top of it, and it drips down. And I wrote a little card how that happens. That was my science fair thing. And so I'm walking around, after the science fair. They've judged them all. Debbie's stupid thing, there's about 40 or 50 displays. Debbie's stupid thing got a third place. That was nuts. So I looked around and put that third red place ribbon on mine. And people would walk around saying, oh, and I'm standing next to it. So finally somebody came around and said, no, that's not, it goes over here. That's where it goes. So anyway, I got a D in citizenship that year. I guess I deserved it. I don't know, but here I talk about that decades later. That's a decision probably I wouldn't do today. But I think, I got rules in my life now. What happens when you don't have that framing? When you don't have those rules? What happens to you? Yeah.
The children of Israel had been slaves for many years.
Yeah.
I don't think they practiced their religion very much during those years. And Egypt was not a spectacular place to live.
No.
And for 2 million people to, boom, go out in the wilderness, they have no rules. They have no morals.
That's very believable. Oh, no, they have morals, but I'll establish them, Go ahead.
The transition, what you started with, the transition is more than I can even imagine what they went through. And God was trying to establish a relationship with them. I'm the God that brought you out here, and this is what I want to do for you.
God's been trying to do this, like I said earlier, Garden of Eden. You can eat from anywhere, but not here. Trying to get some framing. Now, I see it just exactly the way you just said it. What does that mean for me today when I go through difficult times? Mrs. Schultz and I didn't get along. It was a tough year. The way I handled it is I did that. That was my decision. But of course, that's a little one. But it's like eating the bowl of ice cream and then another bowl and then the gallon. And here we go. It spins. Anybody here ever rationalize a bad decision? You just keep spinning it till it comes out the way you want it. Does anybody ever remember anybody who's come to you for advice? And they really don't want your advice. They want you just to agree with them. They really don't want to hear it. My whole point with this is that what I think God is trying to do is he's trying to establish a framing. This is the path you walk. This is how I want you to behave with each other and with me, and this is how I want you to make decisions.
Am I misunderstanding something, or have God just let them go and let them go and let them go, and he was just reining them back in?
Well, I think, with us, God doesn't have any concept of time. We do probably, but God doesn't. They were slaves for, in my view, a long time. I guess when I look at eternity, I'm not so sure. I think they crossed that river when it was time to cross the river.
But God has reined people back in several times, the flood and this, and
Sure.
different times that they've just gotten out of hand.
Well, God tries, and some gets in. These people that I just listed, those people we know that got off track, smart people. What causes you to get off track?
Smart people make stupid decisions.
Well, dumb people do too. But what causes the alarm clock to go off in your brain that says, I shouldn't do this? Most of the time, these difficult decisions happen when it's really, really tough. Okay, God gives us this framing. these commandments. Can you think of a time when Jesus did the same thing? When was it when Jesus stood and said, okay? Can anybody ever think of a time? Because I can.
Sermon on the Mount?
Huh?
Sermon on the Mount.
Sermon on the Mount. That's exactly right. That's when I get it. That's when I think Jesus gives some specific guidance as to how we should treat each other. The Sermon on the Mount talks about the relationship that we should have with each other. So I think, and it continues the dialogue of those last 6 commandments. What I'm trying to get you to think about is, what are your rules of engagement? How do you decide things, particularly during the really hard times? Yeah, Rob.
Real quick, so part of my job right now is I teach new hires and new employees and laterals, and I have to teach an ethics class. And when we talk about ethics, I always tell people it's really easy to be honest when there's no bad consequences. Where ethics comes in is it's hard to do the right thing when you have something to lose. And something to lose can involve not getting what you want right now. It can mean losing your job by doing the right thing, or it can mean, not having enough money today for what you want to do. But a lot of it boils down to making that nasty decision when you have something to lose. It's easy when you don't have anything to lose.
What's easy when you don't have anything to lose?
Making hard decisions or making decisions. The decision is not hard, to be honest, when you don't have a dog in that particular fight.
You see, I think when you have this stuff framed, the decisions are easy. The execution of those decisions is what's hard.
Sure.
And I am going to not make the right decision because I don't want to face executing that decision. I mean, when you go in front of organizations, and most organizations have honor or integrity as one of their values, but how do you define it? A typical definition I've heard is you do the right thing when nobody's looking, even when nobody's looking. That's a good example. But I think that what I hope, and we're going to get to the Sermon on the Mount here for a second, what I'm hoping happens here is you begin to think about how you frame your decisions, how you frame your behaviors when it's really, really hard. You'll do it when it's easy, but when it's tough, and we've all faced it.
You were commenting about doing the right thing when nobody's looking. This isn't a very spiritual comment, but it did hit home with me when I heard it, I don't know, years and years and years ago. The true definition of a gentleman is when he uses the butter knife when no one else is in the room.
Mm-hmm. That's right. He doesn't stick his finger in it. He uses the butter knife. It's a great example. I mean, what does Jesus say about this stuff? The Sermon on the Mount, how we should treat each other. Could someone please read Matthew 5:13 through 14?
You are the salt of the earth, but what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden.
Salt has flavor. That gives me some evidence what respect for others maybe should fall on. It gives me an idea of what respect for the individual might mean. Read Matthew 5:33 through 37.
Again, you have heard that it was said to the people long ago, do not break your oath, but keep the oaths you have made to the Lord. But I tell you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. Simply let your yes be yes, your no be no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one.
If you're looking for some evidence as to how you define integrity, you might have it somewhere in those words. If you say something you're going to do it. Matthew 6, 1 through 4.
Take heed that you do not do your charitable deeds before men to be seen by them. Otherwise, you have no reward from your Father in heaven. Therefore, when you do a charitable deed, do not sound the trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory from men. Assuredly, I say to you, they have the reward. But when you do a charitable deed, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, that your charitable deed may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will himself reward you openly.
See, this is tough. This talks about the importance of being selfless. Selfless. That's what I said.
That's what I mean. I was.
You were agreeing with
you. I was agreeing with
You're a
you.
good guy. This world would be a lot better if they'd agree with you.
If they believe in you more.
Yeah, I mean, this talks about being righteous and being selfless. And we just said about 20 minutes ago, we are not trained this way. That's not the way you're trained. If you do this, you get this. But fair enough. I mean, we live in a society where we have to provide important things to ourselves and our family, and standard of living counts for something. But I say this at least once a day to somebody, that is looking at their investments. It's not about the money. It's about what the money can do. How does it raise your standard of living? How does it raise the standard of living of your community? What good does it do? Because if it's about the money is your God, and that's a problem. Matthew 7, 15 through 20.
Be aware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You'll know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them.
So what that might say is, hey, you have to be careful who I'm around. I got to be careful. That's hard. I mean, who here hasn't said to their children, you can't hang around those people anymore. You can't do it. Yes, ma'am.
Case in point, my nephew is spending 15 years in prison for riding in a car with somebody who killed somebody.
Oh, man. How long has he been in?
Probably 2 years.
Can he get out early, you think?
I don't know. Right now, he's teaching math. So he did so well in his math that they're having him help the other prisoners. But we're hoping and praying he can get out early.
Of course. Just, I'll tell you something else too with the verse before. It's judging, be careful that you judge, you'll be judged the same way. But then I got to be careful who I hang around with. So there's judgment mixed in this. Anybody work through that? I've thought a lot about that. Leaders judge every day. You gotta. So how do I frame that? How do I do it? Yeah.
I heard someone else whisper this too. I think that's discernment. But, when you're judging people, it's discerning, but you don't put a value of 0 on their soul.
Yeah, I'd like to think everybody has value, for sure.
I would have to say that that's not a place where I excel, because I easily sit in judgment of other people that I work with. And I'm so uncomfortable, and I have to sit in that. And, God reminds me, boy, aren't you glad I don't do that to you, Debbie?
Yeah.
Because I want them to be better at their craft. I want it to be better so that it can serve our school. But, so I do really struggle with looking at, their deficits and placing a judgment on who they are, and they needed this and they needed that.
See, I think when it comes to judgment in this, I think intent is really, really important. Why did Moses kill that Egyptian? He did it because he was mad, didn't like what he was doing, and after he killed the Egyptian, he felt a lot better. He did it for himself. And so, when this person that you didn't respect, a lot of their behaviors were self-serving. The one you respected were selfless. And the person that you respected that sat down with you and judged your behavior is not good, you probably thought, I needed it. Because the person's intent had nothing to do with raising himself up. In fact, that person was probably taking risk by sitting down and talking to you. Did I sign Matthew 7, verse 12?
Yes.
Please.
Therefore, whatever you want men to do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets.
See, there's also another verse. Any other verses I handed out? That's the golden rule.
Matthew 7.
Thank you. Is that yours?
I think it's Matthew 7, yeah. Matthew 7, 1 through 7.
Go.
Judge not that you be not judged, for with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? For how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank is in your eye? Hypocrite. First remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Do not give what is holy to the dogs, or cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces.
See, when I read that this time, I looked at it differently. What it said to me when I cursorily read that was, don't be critical of other people. Be careful, But it also said, which was even more important, look in the mirror, reflect. Think about things that you can do better. Look in the mirror. So I started this conversation, and I've done it lots of times. So think about somebody that you didn't respect, and you think about somebody you did respect, and we talk about those things and list them. But if I had the hundreds of people in front of me that have reported to me in the past and asked them that question about me, I would hope some of them would put me on the good list, but I'm sure some would put me on the bad list. I'm sure. And so you kind of bounce, I want to get over to this side. But it forces us to, I think, to reflect. So what do we learn here? What does God suggest that we should consider? All this, yeah.
Going back to this text, there's another element that God is suggesting me that to work on myself. And when I work on myself, He's given me permit to help you as well. but I need to do it myself first. And then I know that some things are easy for me, some things are not. I don't know which one is easy for you, which one not. But God is actually want us to help one another. And there is some kind of like a judgment involved when we help, you know, because if I see you going wrong way and I care for you as a friend, I'm saying, hey,
Yeah.
brother, I don't think that you're going the right way and I care for you. And you may say, don't judge me. I'm not judging, I'm caring for you. And I'm working on my own stuff. I know that it's not easy, but let's find a way to, you know, to sharpen it or to redirect it. So proper understanding of word judging, and when I do my own work, then I have I think, permission from God.
Well, I know you take this seriously. And that's why I think intent is really important. I think that I'm trying to get folks to take a really strong look at themselves. And by taking a strong look at themselves, God has a greater opportunity to use me to help you. I mean, these aren't my words. I worked on this thing for hours. You know, I talked to several people whom you know about what's it. This isn't, I mean, I have to put, I think it's important I put myself into my position that my intent is to be helpful. I think these commandments, and I think this Sermon on the Mount tries to inspire me to be helpful for no other reason than to help. Yeah.
It's almost like it's bookends, because at first it says don't judge or you'll be judged, but then it says don't throw your pearls to swine. That requires some judgment.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the core in the middle is important, that we work
Get ready, Garth.
on our stuff, asking God to correct our planks is the core.
Why is this so important? Where this becomes really important in my view, it becomes really important when crisis strikes and when things are really hard. Now, what are you going to do? And you have lots of opportunity to do the wrong thing. A key to leadership is, you know, in leadership, there's a lot of different definitions for it, but I've never seen a definition that did not have the word influence in it. So if you're in a position to influence something, you are in a position of leading. And I think that how you lead during really difficult times is a very, very fragile thing. But if you can fall back on a set of values and a wholesome purpose and remind people of it and yourself, you might get there. I'm going to show a movie clip here. Anybody see the movie Gettysburg? You have, okay. What this is this. This is a movie clip where Colonel Chamberlain, 3rd Regiment of Maine, is during the Battle of Gettysburg, and this is the Battle of Little Round Top. Now, military historians believe that whoever wins this battle will win the Battle of Gettysburg, and that will win the war. Now, there's a lot of theory, but it's pretty secure. That's what would have happened. And what's happened here is you've got the right flank of the Union forces is exposed, and Lee doesn't know it. He's hesitating because he doesn't know. His intelligence guy, General Stewart, isn't doing his job. Little Round Top is the flank, and they got to get over there because Lee will find out. It's a sure thing that if they envelop this force, the Confederate will win the Battle of Gettysburg. And so lots on the line here. This colonel's lost 700 soldiers up till now. He has 106 soldiers that are deserters in front of him. He's got to have them. He's going to lose, and he knows it if he doesn't get them to pick up their arms. And they threw him down. They quit. This is what he says. I want you to think about purpose and values. By the way, this is in journals, so it's studied.
I've been talking with Private Buckland. He's told me about your problem. There's nothing I can do today. We're moving out in a few minutes. We'll be moving all day. I've been ordered to take you men with me. I'm told that if you don't come, I can shoot you. Well, you know I won't do that. Maybe somebody else will. Here's the situation. The whole Reb Army is up that road a ways waiting for us, so this is no time for an argument like this, I tell you. We could surely use you fellas. We're now well below half strength. Whether you fight or not, that's up to you. Whether you come along is well, you come. You know who we are, what we're doing here, but if you're going to fight alongside us, there's a few things I want you to know. This regiment was formed last summer in Maine. There were 1,000 of us then. There are less than 300 of us now. All of us volunteered to fight for the Union. Some came mainly because we were bored at home. Thought this looked like it might be fun. Some came because we were ashamed not to. Many of us came because it was the right thing to do. All of us have seen men die. It's a different kind of army. If you look back through history, you will see men fighting for pay, women, or some other kind of loot, fight for land, power. Because a king leads them, or just because they like killing. We are here for something new. This has not happened much in the history of the world. We are an army out to set other men free. America should be free ground. All of it. Not divided by a line between slave states and free. All the way. From here to the Pacific Ocean. No man has to bow. No man born to royalty. Here we judge you by what you do, not by who you follow. Here you can be something. Here is the place to build a home. It's not the land. Always more land. It's the idea that we all have value. You and me. What we're fighting for. In the end. Fighting for each other. Sorry, I need to preach. You go ahead. You talk for a while. If you choose to join us, you want your muskets back, you can have them. Nothing more will be said by anybody anywhere. If you choose not to join us, well, you can come along under guard, and when this is all over, I will do what I can to see you get a fair treatment, but for now, we're moving on. Gentlemen, I think if we lose this fight, we lose the war. So if you choose to join us, I'll be personally very grateful.
106, 99 picked up their weapon. And they went through 4 hours. They ran up the road 2 miles, went through 4 hours of battle, six bayonet charges, and they won. The reason why I showed this is that this man stood up in front of everybody and said, this is why we do this. Every person has value. This is how we treat each other. We're doing it for each other. And what I hope this morning does, some way, somehow, inspires you to think about what guides your decisions and what guides your behaviors. What values do you put a stake in the sand, particularly when it's really difficult? What do you do? And it'd be so easy to rationalize it, but you have a framed set of values that helps carve your path. I think it's really important with people in this room, particularly our ages, that we finally define that. It makes decisions easy. Doesn't make the executions any harder. Thanks, guys. Very good.
Thank you, John. Had a good lesson. We really appreciate you. Well, we're running way behind, so I just want to say Jerry Arnold will be here next week. And I hope you will not miss it. It's going to be on a great subject about church, God's tabernacle. And I will say this, even though we're a little behind here, can you imagine, it just dawned on me, 2 million people that lived in slavery are suddenly free. The danger, crazy ideas that would go through people's heads, that if I ever get free, I want to do this, I want to do that. That was quite an undertaking that God let his people have and trusted them and trusted Moses that things would not go crazy. Thought about that a lot. Rob, would you have our prayer, please?
Father in heaven, we would see Jesus. And we want Jesus to be the standard for our behavior. And we praise you for the teaching today and praise you that you gave us a set of standards to go by. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks again, John.
Sorry.
Really, really good luck.
Sorry, it's late again. I cut 25% of it out.
Yeah.